All right, everyone. Trump is now weighing in on the NRA. He's trying to defend them a bit from Andrew Cuomo. Basically, New York has decided to weaponize its legal system. Like, if someone's rich in New York and moves out, they audit them in order to try to drag them through court and waste a lot of taxpayer money to maybe recoup it. Like, it's basically an attempt by Cuomo to keep people from leaving the state that he's making a shitty place to be. And this happens all the time. Then New York's attorney general or whatever, their legal system is going after Trump, so it's like he's obviously not that big a friend of them, which is funny considering how much property he has in New York, considering he's a lifelong resident. It must be weird to be attacked by your state. It must be weird to get into, like, you'd think of like a Tommy Robinson or someone too, or Sargon or something like that. Somebody who becomes almost a stateless person because their own government literally hates them and makes no qualms about making sure that you know that they don't really like you. It must be a very strange thing to happen, and Trump has this happen. Of course, in his native New York, he's basically a pariah. I don't even know, does he even go to New York City very often anymore? I mean, can he even walk through the streets without a bunch of college liberals throwing tomatoes at him or something? Maybe. Be a bit like someone converts to the Democratic Party, then has to go back to their small town in the outskirts of Cheyenne in Wyoming or something. have to deal with that problem. He'd be throwing more than just tomatoes, if you know what I'm saying. But the NRA, here's my thoughts on the NRA, though. They've cocked. It's become clear at this point, the NRA is having problems partially because the harder line segment of it wants it to be more, proficient on actually defending the Second Amendment. I would say that the NRA has cucked, though, primarily for a long time, not just recently, primarily because they refuse to attack existing gun control. They always talk a big game about, stop Obama's, UN ammo treaty ban thing that he was going to sign for a while, and I don't think that ever got ratified, so it never took effect. Stop extended magazine ban. This state wants to ban assault rifles. We must fight them in court. That's great, but that's just a defensive game. When's the NRA going to come out against the National Firearms Act or any of these other things that shouldn't exist? They already violate the Second Amendment, quite clearly. It's only a matter of time before the courts end up nullifying a lot of that bullshit anyway, but the thing is, it'd be a lot quicker if there were more active legal challenges and more active grassroots on-the-ground protesting going on about the problems with exercising the Second Amendment already in the United States. We're one of the most pro-gun nations. Yes, we're armed to the teeth, but we should be more pro-gun. The whole idea, there's no such thing as an extremist of, ammo-sexualist. No, that doesn't exist. It's called defending yourself, defending your nation. That's really what it's about. It's not about hunting. It's not about sport shooting. Yes, those are fun pastimes, I guess, for people who want to hunt some defenseless animal. That's great. Sports shooting, it's like, okay. Or target shooting or something, which, can be fun. You do it in your backyard if depending on your zoning laws. That's fine, pop off a few rounds with my revolver now and again too, but that's not the basic point of the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment specifically was so that people could form unorganized militias and rise up in case of needing to defend the motherland against enemies, foreign and domestic. That's literally why it was there in the first place. It was literally written because the British, who at the time were the government of the people that ended up fighting in the revolution, wasn't a foreign state, it was their own government they were fighting against, was trying to confiscate weapons. They said, no, you can't have armories, you can't train, you can't semi-standardize yourself and form these groups. It's illegal. We're not going to let you do it because it makes us feel threatened. Literally everything that the so-called amosexuals are doing is what the British had a problem with. They had a problem with it because they wanted to be able to freely tyrannize people. If a government doesn't trust its people with firearms and with other weapons, including so-called, spooky weapons of war, which most of them aren't, if that's actually how they operate, then the government is one step from illegitimacy. No, the government shouldn't be trusted to enact those rules at all if it gets to that point. When I see a bunch of rich bitch politicians living in penthouses having a problem with someone owning a revolver, or something, or carrying a gun that can carry a modern number of bullets, I question their patriotism. I think that some of them are blind. They're just idealistic and blind. They have this weird idea that if you ban guns, gun crime goes away, or some stupid shit like that that's never worked in the history of the world, or they're being malevolent. So they're either dumb or they're evil. No, I don't want to listen to them at all. So the NRA needs to do a lot more than it does. Don't just resist, attempts to institute more gun control. How's that working for you? The NRA accomplishes butt-fuck nothing. The Supreme Court accomplishes things. The Supreme Court is better at defending the Second Amendment than the NRA is at this point. They basically and the part of it is because of the moral panic around mass shootings that are thankfully rare. Like gun crime is at a near 50-year low in the United States. Little Jimmy's probably safe going to school. You don't really have to get your knickers in a twist. Your kid's probably going to grow up just fine. Unless you're an anti-vaxxer. Just a joke there, of course. I think most of them left the channel already. No offense to people who question the legitimacy of getting like 30 flu shots before you're 18. That I would stand with them on. Here's what I would say, though. The NRA just sort of stands back and nitpicks about gun control attempts now. But the court system has been more instrumental in fighting it. For the court system and people who are aggrieved of their rights, the NRA, in the wake of some of the mass shooting stuff, it rebranded itself a bit as like, well, we're just a bunch of hunters, basically. No, we're dudes with, like, a hunting rifle, a shotgun. We like revolvers and stuff like that. They start posting, like, pictures of old guns and stuff, and that's all well and good. You can't fight a modern war with a black powder musket, if you know what I'm saying. It's the whole point of the Second Amendment isn't to defend the hunter. Yeah, even over in bonny old England or whatever, you can still go hunting. Well, kind of. Don't you need the government's permission? You can go into one of these little stands of forest and, like, I don't know, grab a fox or something. And if you get a noble title, probably you get expedited service because it's a weird hierarchical society. It's not exactly all men are created equal. All Zir created equally. It's not exactly like that over there in Europe. Thank goodness my ancestors fled that dark continent. But no, I think we need more guns. Oh yeah, way more guns, way more ammo. Like, Fallout can't become a reality unless there are all sorts of weapons of war lying around. Like, I don't want to have to fight the super mutants with a pipe rifle. I don't think that's a good idea. No, I want a rocket launcher and crates of grenades and, like, all sorts of cool shit. Yeah, why not? We should have the arms manufacturers mass produce all this good shit and pump it into local armory systems that'll be stocked fucking to the brim, and people can go shooting and own more guns here. And they should be people should all have guns at home. Well, except for the Starbucks Marxists, I don't even know whether they have the strength after all the Soylent they guzzle to pull the trigger, but they certainly don't have the sense not to take the gun and, I don't know, wave it over the horizon and do stupid shit like that. Trigger discipline, what's that? That means I punish my trigger? No, it's probably what they think. But the NRA is kind of cucked. It's good that Trump is like saying, basically trying to defend him from the New York AG's office, constant weaponization of its legal system. That's good. And the NRA does defend gun rights in a topical sense, but they're having internal problems because they refuse to go all in. They don't want to be seen as too extreme. They want to be seen as moderates. That's funny. 20 years ago, it was from my cold, dead hands. Nobody cared about being seen as a moderate. You said, no, guns are good. They're a virtuous thing. It's not just all about hunting. We will defend ourselves and our rights. Fucking keep at it. You were doing fine. What changed? It isn't that there are fewer guns in the country, that's for sure. It's funny how the number of guns and gun-owning households in the country has skyrocketed, and yet gun crime is at a near 50-year low. Explain that one, far leftists. That's about all. Peace out.